The impetus for this podcast, the aha moment, the phrase that resonated most among all the other ideas I had that were already taken. Last week, i.e. late January of 2023, so a little more than a week ago, I came across a Mel Robbins video where she said, "You are perfection unfolding," and everything clicked into place. That is exactly what I am. That is exactly the perfect formula of words I didn't know I was looking for to describe the experience of my self-healing journey. I am perfection unfolding. The phrase perfection unfolding is essentially the idea in philosophy that everything is perfect exactly as it is, regardless of how we're relating to what it is, regardless of how we're relating to what is happening to us, whether we think it's dumb or cool, or it makes us sad or angry or devastated or elated. There's beauty in everything. That's ultimately the message in this philosophy when you distill it down to its core. It also coincides with the idea and belief that the universe is neutral. It's not good or bad. There are things in the world that are helpful and hurtful. But if a tree dies in the forest, it just begins decaying. It has no opinion about the decay. It has no opinion about the growth. It just is. It just is perfect. Being is perfection, and we are humans being perfection. And I think that's an incredible way to look at the world and find the beauty in everything, to find perfection in everything. The embodiment of this philosophy is not to negate or invalidate our suffering, but to sit in it and know that it's perfect. Not perfect because we're supposed to learn something or we're supposed to get something out of it, but just because it's a part of being alive. It's a part of the human experience. It aligns hand in hand with another quote that changed my life a few years ago. A COVID quote, if you will. A quote from Neil Walsh's Conversations with God. He says in the book, "There's nothing to do but to be. There's nothing to do but to be. There is nothing to do but to be." I remember reading those words and feeling as if my mind shattered into a million pieces. It felt like I discovered the cure to all the cancers and diseases in the world, which is dramatic, but in a way, the phrase probably could. In the grand scheme of everything, being alive at its core is the only thing I think we're here to do. To breathe, to touch, to smell, to feel, to relate, to love. Everything else is just extra, for better or for worse. We are here to be human, messy, anxious, loving, squishy, complicated humans. Nothing more, nothing less. And every experience of humanness we get to live is perfect in nature, just by existing. And if I've learned anything about healing in the last 5 years, or even over the course of my full life, the notion of being a spiritual energy, experiencing a human form, resonates deeply and intuitively feels like an absolute truth, with a capital T. However, once some of us discover that truth, it seems we do everything in our power to forget and wash away the humanness of our reality altogether, diving deeper and deeper into spiritual practices, hoping and wishing we could be more godlike so our mortal lives don't suck as much. Sometimes even burdening ourselves with paranoia or thinking everyone around us has the answers we're quote-unquote looking for. But in doing that, I think we miss the whole point of being alive, of being a being. The most powerful wisdom I've discovered is that we are alive in the flesh, here and now, and that is the point. We may be spiritual souls all connected at our roots, but for whatever reason, we chose this individual experience. It's beautiful to know where we come from and to have gratitude for Source in its mysterious, wonderful ways. But if we live our lives focused on where we come from or where we wish to be, we will have missed the opportunity to live out our fully expressed lives where we are. To reveal our perfection, to unfold our truths, to unlearn and relearn what it means to be alive. to love beyond measure just because we can. This podcast is an invitation to witness the most vulnerable parts of me as I recount moments of my life that have changed the trajectory of my physical, mental, sexual, relational, and familial health for the better. My quest to build a life worth living has been an undeniably human one, but my garbage is my truth, and my truth is my power. My hope is that sharing my garbage and how I transmuted it into my power will in some way help you do the same. Let it be known that I am not a special person. I am not some special poet. I'm not the first person to ever think of this concept or use this philosophy. But I really try to practice and integrate this into my life every day. This podcast is a dedication to the cycles of life and letting them take us wherever we're meant to go. We grow, we decay, we transform. We grow, we decay, we transform over and over again just because we can. That is, to me, perfection unfolding. We are perfection personified. God, source, energy, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, can only know they're perfect and that they're pure love, but they can't experience it unless we're here. The universal life force that flows through everything that exists cannot experience it itself without us. And I think that's so fucking cool. If the universal life force is perfect, then we are perfect. Everything is perfect and immaculate. And I'm here to tell you, anyone, should they choose it, can implement this mindset into their lives. I'll be the first one to tell you though, adapting a mindset that everything in life is perfect, exactly as it is not for the faint of heart. It will humble you, to say the least. It's uncomfortable, difficult, and almost guaranteed to break your heart over and over again, but it will wake you up to the revitalized life of your dreams if you so choose it. It's a practice in forgiveness. It's a practice in empathy. It's a practice in patience and kindness, even if the world around you is bitter and mean. But it's all a choice. It's an empowered choice. To quote a book I've never read, the mountain is you. And I think you, quote unquote, is the version of you that is asleep to your perfection, who's reactive to your circumstances, the you who hasn't looked in the mirror and marveled at your existence. Yet. That's the idea of this whole pod. It's me sharing and discovering how to implement this idea and philosophy throughout my life and to share my findings with you. It's me taking life experiences I've had that I've traditionally had a negative view on and finding and squeezing the perfection out of it, squeezing the juice of life out of it. Something you sometimes can only really do in hindsight. This space is also for sharing other people's experiences and how they've squeezed the juice and perfection out of their lives. Expect to hear some incredibly vulnerable readings of notes and journal entries I've dug up from my past, how I've made it through the other side of some of my darkest moments, lots of comedic relief, no worries there, and anecdotal advice that hopefully spreads some inspiration along the way. Along this journey, my hope is that we all remember our truth with a capital T. We aren't our unhelpful habits. We aren't our relationship mistakes. We aren't our lowest days or even our highest and brightest days. We are perfection unfolding. Slowly peeling back the layers of ourselves and unlearning our conditioning a little every day to help us remember who we really are. I'm so excited to dive into this work. I hope you join me.